Great, thank you, and hello everyone. Welcome to our virtual Lobby Day 2021. I'm thrilled to see everyone here today. And I would like to introduce myself. My name is Dr. Darlene Zangara. This is how you sign my name in ASL, and I am the Executive Director for the Minnesota Commission for Deaf, DeafBlind, and Hard of Hearing. We're thrilled to have you here. This session is focused on a legislative panel with our legislators. I would like to introduce my partner for today, who is our new Government Relations Director. He's recently joined our team. This is Alicia Lane-Outlaw. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Good morning, Darlene. And yes, I would like to explain a little bit more about the interpreting setup. We have a background here that is a dark black, and we also wear black clothing. I'm a white Hispanic woman with dark hair, curly, and my name sign is this, Alicia, Lane-Outlaw. And I'm thrilled to start today in this new position as Government Relations Director. I've worked many years as a contractor in my former position with another organization. So I'm thrilled to work with this team, and I know them well.
Thank you, Alicia, for reminding me. I should have also mentioned that myself. I am a white woman with glasses, dark curly hair, and I'm wearing a black jacket with a black backdrop. This description will be helpful for those of our participants who are deaf and blind, so they're aware of what we look like and what we're here doing today. Also, I would like to introduce our first panelist, but first let me explain what we're planning to do today. We do have several different legislators who are going to be joining us during our session today, and we would like to have this opportunity to learn more about them and ask them 3 questions. First, we would like to learn about who they are as individuals. Secondly, what bills are they working on and how those bills would impact deaf, deafblind, and hard of hearing constituents. And third, we'd like to know what tips they have for how we can work with legislators more effectively. And so we will be asking these 3 same questions. You don't actually have to memorize them because we will be asking them as we meet each of our legislators. Now I see that our first legislator, Representative Raleigh. Yes, wonderful. Thank you so much for coming and joining us today. Would you like to begin with our first question? Would you mind to tell us about yourself? What's your role and anything else that you would like to share with us?
Yes, thank you. I'm Don. I've been this is my first term as a legislator. I'm wearing a dark jacket with a purple shirt or a purplish shirt. I'm bald and I'm a white male. I've been a business owner for almost 20 years, and my background is I'm former military. I spent 8 years in active duty in the Army as an infantryman. And for the past nearly 20 years as a business owner in St. Paul.
Fantastic, thank you. And now our second question. What bills are you currently working on that would have an impact on deaf, deafblind, and hard of hearing community members? We would like to learn more about what you're working on.
Thank you for the question. The I will start by saying, as a new legislator who's in their first year, it's difficult for us to have a lot of bills that are going to be heard. We have to prove ourselves first and then work through committees. But what I will tell you is for the past at least 10 years, my company, the name of the company is Evolve Systems. And Evolve is a website development company. And we have been focused on ADA compliance and WCAG, or WCAG as we call it, WCAG compliance. We work with a local Minnesota company called Site Improve, and we're a partner with them. And I don't have any specific bills that I'm working on right now, but my focus is a very, very long experience in working with ADA compliance as it relates to websites. So what you can expect from me is a focus on the deaf, blind, and hard of hearing community to make sure that there's equity, to make sure that we are having a focus on those of us that are differently abled. I don't happen to have a sight problem, but I am hard of hearing from my service in the military. I'm what's called service-connected disabled. And I don't wear hearing aids yet, but I'm very close.
Well, wonderful. Thank you for joining our community then, right? You're now a part of our community as well. What tips do you have for our community as well?
Certainly. So I'll start off with, we're all part of the community. And what we as legislators have to do is understand that the separation between us is much smaller than the differences. We are all working towards the same thing, and that's a better Minnesota. And when we understand the needs that each of us have in our community, it gives us a much better lens to be inclusive, to be aware. And I think that's one of the things that we need to do more than anything else is have an awareness, have the ability to see each other. And I understand I'm using the word see, but our language is limited. We have a lot of limitations on the words that we can use because that's our shared experience is the English language. But it's understanding how to communicate beyond just the language. So the question is, what tips do I have? I come at this discussion from the standpoint of not just speaking English. I'm also, in my job in the military, I was a translation specialist. My languages are Russian and German. And so I needed to learn foreign languages. I know a little ASL, very little, tiny bit. But I can say hi and things like that. And I do look forward to learning more from the standpoint of being able to communicate. So the tips that I have are, we have a great deal of technology. And I think technology has given us more of an opportunity to communicate, not less. We have, cell phones, we can text. We have, like in this meeting right now, we have an interpreter, we have a chat feature. And I think, and this is the area that I want to bring, is as a technologist and as a website development specialist, anytime we talk about technology, I want to represent our community and make sure that we have an understanding of not just saying the words on a page, but also being able to pay attention to things like the images. Because just like, and this is a good lesson, just like it is important for me to describe who I am, a white, bald male, it's important to describe what's on a screen, whether it's a product for purchase or it is information about the news or other things that are being displayed on a screen. That gives us the opportunity to communicate. And I believe that is really the heart of what we're trying to do. It's not just saying the words, it's understanding what we mean.
And if you'll hold on 1 second, I do want to let the audience know that they can check the chat to be able to get captions. If there are people that have missed that opportunity, we do just want people to know that they can also access captions. So I do want to say this is impressive. And are you aware that 20% of our population, persons in Minnesota, have some sort of hearing loss? And this is really a much larger population than expected. However, we really appreciate your work. And also in the technical world, really the changes that we have are so quick and so frequent. So we're very glad that you're working in this area. And we're wondering, what tips do you have for us to be able to support you?
Thank you for the question. One thing that I do is when I reach out to the public, whether it's YouTube or Facebook or others, I do create videos, and all of my videos have subtitles, every single one of them. It's not just because I'm trying to comply with some law, it's just smart. Because the more we're able to communicate in a way that people are able to access, the better we are at communicating in general. So tips, and I would love for Joshua to talk about this as well, but Joshua is my legislative assistant. We are very dedicated to making sure that we have as much accessibility as possible. You can text us, you can email us, and I'm very happy to meet with individuals, or I'm happy to meet individually or in groups like this. For example, I met with Jade Stevenson, I think it was 2 weeks ago, and we had a great conversation. The question was, am I aware that 20% of our population is differently enabled? Yes, I am. I'm very aware.
And did you want to ask Jade Stevenson to join us right now?
That would be awesome.
All right, well, let's see. I'm sorry, it was Joshua. Thank you, yes. We did want to add Joshua. I'm sorry, that was the interpreter's error.
How do you sign and Joshua is awesome? Awesome, okay.
So Joshua, you are the legislative assistant for Raleigh. And what information can you share about yourself and your work with the representative?
Hi, absolutely. I'm really excited to be here today. A little bit about me. I am a 25-year-old Hispanic male, light-skinned Hispanic for those that need the description. And I'm not sure how to sign my name, but I will wait for the interpreter to sign it. But yes, My background is before I joined the House of Representatives here in Minnesota, I was actually a Marine stationed at Quantico, and I did 4 years in the DC area. I started off in the warehouse, but I worked to get to a position that I dreamed of, and I was appointed by the White House military offices to be the Chief of Personnel and Administration for the Supply and Logistics Division at Marine One. So I had the incredible opportunity of serving President Obama for 2 years and then serving President Trump for 1.5 years during the transition before I left the White House. And it was an incredible experience, and it's kind of what launched me into working in policy. The how I got involved with the commission was I was introduced to the former director, Mary Hartnett, and one of my first members was Brian Daniels of Faribault. I'm not sure if you know Representative Daniels, but he is very well connected in the deafblind and hard of hearing community with his son who attended the state academies. And I worked on a lot of legislation in 2018 that involved bonding to be able to promote the refurbishing and rebuilding of those schools so that they could accommodate more students. And that is where I kind of got a passion for working with the commission. And I've always just had a connection with all of you ever since, and it has been a passion of mine to work on that legislation.
Wonderful. And if we needed to access representatives, then how would we be able to utilize your support in this process if we're interested, for example, in proposing something?
Yes, absolutely. I would say the perfect example is actually Jade Stevenson. She is a student at the Metro Deaf School and Representative Raleigh's constituent. And she did, on her own, with her own volition, what I would say is the perfect example. Especially for those that are differently enabled, there's ways to get in contact with us through phone, but she sent a very amazing email. The first was she introduced herself in the email. She explained why she was contacting us, what she was supporting, why she was supporting that legislation. And then she told a little bit of her own personal story. It wasn't just that she was advocating for a piece of legislation. It was that legislation personally meant something to her. And so when I forwarded that message to Representative Raleigh, we were able to hear her personal story and be moved by that. And that's when we developed a good introduction and had a wonderful meeting with Jade. And then we were introduced to all of you for this panel. And I would say that that's the perfect way of getting involved is, step-by-step explaining, why you're contacting us, why you want to get involved, why it matters to you, because we get hundreds of emails a day. But the ones that I think really matter most to us are the ones that are really personal and hit home.
Wonderful. And is there any other information that you want us to be aware of?
Yes, there are, resources that enable you to get in contact with your state legislature. And that is either for your representative or your state senator. You can go to Who Represents Me, Minnesota, and when you type in your address, it will pop up every single elected official for you in your area. Once then, there should be links that go to their website, and you can contact us through form email or send us a personal email, which I would encourage is a personal email instead of the form contact, to be able to get in contact with us. I'd say that would be the best way to do that.
Okay. And yes, Representative Raleigh, did you want to add something?
Yes, two things that I'll add. One, when you contact me, I see that the emails or the contact fall into two different areas. One is asking me to support or to oppose something. And those are great. Let me know your ideas on why. It's not, I like to read why people are thinking the way that they are thinking. Don't just say, here's a bill, say no, or here's a bill, say yes. The reason that that's important is because when I'm in a committee or I'm on the floor of the House, if I can tell a personal story, it makes all the difference to our members. And the best way for me to represent the community is to have a story to tell. The second thing, and this is what I feel is the most important. If you have an idea, if you think of something that you want to see, bring it to us, because that's how laws get passed. That's how legislation happens. We don't just sit at our desks and think of things. We listen to our constituents and we listen to our community. And the best way for us to bring solid legislation is to hear from our community and then have a reason why that we can convince the rest of the legislation to do and to work with us. And really, that's what my job is to listen, to interpret, and then to bring that in a reasonable manner to everybody to make Minnesota better.
Wow, thank you so much for your wonderful opening that door, that attitude. This is fantastic. I'm not sure if many representatives are so open to working with people who are differently abled, especially within the deaf, deafblind, and hard of hearing community. I really look forward to working with you both.
Me too.
And so now, thank you so much. We are going to continue, and thank you. We look forward to working with you more. So now we're going to move to another legislator. I would like to go ahead and allow Alicia Lane-Outlaw to. Thank you. Now, if we could have Alicia Lane-Outlaw, and I'm going to go ahead and go off screen.
Thank you, Darlene. This is Alicia Lane-Outlaw here. And I would like to comment next to the person introducing them, Michelle Weber, Executive Director of LCC, the Legislative Commission. And do you mind introducing yourself, Michelle, and tell us anything about your role?
Good morning.
And
everyone.
describe yourself in your appearance too as well, please.
Sure. Good morning. I'm Michelle. Oh, sorry. And I'm the Executive Director of the Legislative Coordinating Commission. I'm a white female. I have wavy, long brown hair, and I'm wearing glasses. I'm also wearing a black dress with a purple scarf. And my background is a picture of our Minnesota State Capitol. It's a virtual background that is displaying the Capitol in the winter, so I need to update it for our beautiful spring in Minnesota. As the executive director of the Legislative Coordinating Commission, we're a nonpartisan office of the joint offices of the legislature. So we're not elected officials. We are staff of the legislature. And we coordinate activities that fall across the entirety of the House of Representatives, the Senate, and the joint offices like the Revisor's Office or the Legislative Library or the Legislative Budget Office.
Well, thank you. Do you mind sharing with us the role of the LCC within the deaf community and how the community members work with the LCC?
Sure. So there are many services that the Legislative Coordinating Commission provides to the public and to members of the legislature. We do the geographical mapping. So if you want a geographical or visual way to understand where you're located and what members represent you, we have a website that we maintain for that. We also coordinate the broadcasting services, the television broadcasting services, and of particular interest is closed captioning for those services. Whenever legislative proceedings are being televised, the closed captioning arrangements that are made are coordinated through the Legislative Coordinating Commission. In addition, we work to support providing accommodations so that individuals are able to actively participate in the legislative process. And the legislative process includes many things. It could be just an individual meeting that a member might be having with one of their constituents or with you as a community member. It also could be presenting or testifying before a legislative committee and or even attending a legislative committee when we're in a circumstance where the meetings are occurring within the Capitol. We haven't been under that type of circumstance for the last year due to the pandemic. But as we come out of the pandemic and go back to in-person meetings for individuals from the community who are interested in attending legislative hearings and having ASL interpreters available during those hearings so that you can actively participate in the process. The Legislative Coordinating Commission helps and works with legislative staff and members to make sure that we have resources available for people.
Thank you. Do you have any tips for deaf, blind, or hard of hearing community members on how they could possibly better work with the LCC? You provide lots of wonderful services that you describe, but I'm just wondering how we can work with you or request the services through you.
Yeah, so there's a couple different ways that services can be requested. So we have information on the website, on our website, the legislative website. There's a frequently asked questions that you can get to right when you go to the legislative website at the bottom, in the bottom left-hand corner, where you can get information about how to make requests for an accommodation to be provided. But I think one of the other things that we would be really interested in, the Legislative Coordinating Commission will be overseeing a work group of the legislative staff that is going to be working on improving access and the accessibility of legislative information that we have on our website, the ability for individuals to participate in the legislative process. And that work group is going to get started this summer and will be responsible for providing a report to the legislature in October of 2023 on what efforts and what steps we should be taking to improve the accessibility of not just the information on our website, but the ability to participate and interact with members of the legislature. And so it would be really wonderful to work together so that we can get some input and feedback about things that have been helpful to support engagement and working with members of the legislature, but also to hear real and authentic feedback about areas where we need to do better and ideas for how we can best meet the needs of the community.
Thank you. It's wonderful to know that you'll be developing a report on actually how we're doing as far as access and what needs to be improved. Do you plan to disseminate that or announce that, or do you need help in order to disseminate that within the deaf, deafblind, and hard of hearing communities?
Yes, I would say both. We will plan to make information available. We have developed a form on the website that allows people to provide us feedback right now. So we're collecting, even though the work group hasn't gotten started, we are collecting feedback and information about areas where we can improve the accessibility of information that is being made available. We will announce ways in which we can participate in things like today. I really appreciate the opportunity and being invited to meet with all of you today, so that we can have an opportunity to also be working directly with you on things that might be challenging in terms of accessing the legislature. I should also mention that there are 2 initiatives that we have underway right now that we've requested funding for. With the increased web streaming of legislative committee meetings, we aren't, unfortunately, right now able to have real closed captioning available in real time for all legislative proceedings that are taking place. And so we have some funding that we've requested, and it is being carried in the House Omnibus Commerce Bill to provide some resources so that we can purchase some additional technology to help with closed captioning for all, with a goal of having all legislative proceedings, having closed captioning being available as the meetings are taking place. And then the other is the work group that I mentioned. We do have a request that both the House and the Senate are supporting for us to bring in some expertise on accessibility and work with the work group. And so we're very hopeful that those 2 initiatives will be successful through this legislative session, so we can both expand what we're currently doing around providing closed captioning, but that we can also have some dedicated expertise to work with us and increase our knowledge base about how best to serve the community.
Wonderful to know that the bill is in process. So as far as tips, as far as our community members, how are we able to best support or work with you or other bills that may impact us, our community, through the LCC?
As Representative Raleigh mentioned, reaching out to the members who represent you and letting them know about the importance of supporting the work of the legislature and the institution of the legislature. So the staff, not necessarily just the elected officials, but the staff and the people who work on an ongoing basis to support the legislative activities that occur. Reaching out directly to the members and letting them know about the importance of supporting these things or things that are important to you as a constituent, I think is really a tremendous way. And then also, as I mentioned, in Minnesota, sometimes we are cautious about providing critique, and we welcome that. We really need to hear what we're doing well, what we're not doing well, and ideas and suggestions for ways that we can improve access to services. And I see in the chat that there's a question about who's speaking. This is Michelle Weber, and I'm the Executive Director of the Legislative Coordinating Commission.
Yes, thank you. I see that. I just want to clarify, maybe it's a tech support issue possibly, but I think they're trying to look and find out who to pin as far as preview and then spotlight. So they have in a spotlight 3 people. We have the interpreter, or speaker view, and we have the interpreter, we have myself, and we have Michelle Weber. So I think that might have just been a technical issue. So, Michelle, thank you very much for your time. Any final comments that you want to make before we move on to the next one?
I would just reiterate my appreciation for being invited to meet with all of you today, and my commitment to continue working with you for as long as I'm in this role as the Executive Director. I look forward to working with all of you.
Well, thank you. And I do look forward to working with you as well. So that said, I think you can take down your video and we will go on to the next representative, who will then be introduced by Darlene Zangara.
Yes, hello. Thank you. Great. While we're waiting for the next representative, there is an individual named Liz Reyer who's going to show up soon. However, right now, I just want to open it up for questions. If there are any questions, please type them in the chat. That will help us to identify you. And to ask your question, you can either just type it in the chat, or we can spotlight you if you wanted to sign your question. All right, I do see a couple of members who are asking for the email address and also for Representative Raleigh. Also Representative Raleigh did leave their contact information as well. And so we'll be sharing this with all of you if you're interested in that. You can take a look in the chat to see that information. Are there any other questions? I see so far that our panel has been talking about how important it is to go ahead and share your ideas if you have them. And we can talk further about those. Also, it would really depend on that they will really rely on us, on Alicia, I would like to expand more on Alicia Lane-Outlaw's new role of what that work would be. So I'm going to turn it over now to Alicia Lane-Outlaw to describe some more.
Before I go ahead and do that, it seems that Rachel Eggert does have a question here. Do you want to address that or bring Rachel on? Oh, hello, Rachel.
Sure, wonderful. Hello.
Do you want to go ahead with your question?
Yes, my name is Rachel Eggert, and I am deaf and blind. I am wearing a green hoodie and I have brown hair. I do want to say that I agree with what the legislators and the LCC members have said. It's very important to meet with state representatives and senators. It's important to tell your personal story that is in relation to the bill that you're asking them to work with you on. Now, stay on point, don't go off a point, but if you can share your personal story that has an impact on your life with the legislators, and important, don't lie, because you need to be sure that you're telling the truth. You don't want the legislators to find out that you're lying. Also, keep it simple. It's very important that you're developing this relationship with your legislator and thinking about other people who are not legislators, teachers, farmers, other professions. You know, legislators aren't going to be biting you. Just be yourself and just don't act stupid, okay? Just be yourself. And also, if you can stay in touch and let them know that you're there to help them if you ever need resources. And be nice. Don't be mean. Don't be an idiot. Don't be negative either. I previously did work at the state legislature, and sometimes I have gotten frustrated, but it's important to remain respectful. There was one situation where there was testimony and hearing, and the LCC I requested an interpreter. And, you know, sometimes legislative assistants might forget to put in a request for an interpreter. But even understanding, you know, legislative assistants can be very, very busy with their workload. And they are trying to do their best, as well as with the LCC. So it's very important that you be kind and go ahead and make your request, of course, but don't be afraid. I'm not involved in politics anymore myself, but I am happy to help. If there's any questions, please feel free to contact me at any time.
Thank you, Rachel. You're a fabulous resource for us in the community, as you know, because you worked with the legislature. You used to be at the state government for how many years at the Capitol were you there?
This was, well, I actually worked in food and beverage services. And also I was a student at Inver Grove Heights Community College, and we would go for lobbying and work with the Minnesota Commission as well as with transportation. I would go frequently to advocate and would assist for lobby day. And I really miss the legislature and miss working there.
Well, again, I'm sure community members will reach out to you if they have any further questions as well. But Darlene, do I want to hand it over to you? Did you have more questions that you wanted to present? More questions to answer?
Yes. Thank you so much, Rachel. Looks like we do have another question from Jackie Correa Alley. We could spotlight her.
Hello. This is Jackie. Yes. Okay. I do have a question about, MD. I'm the MADC president, but also some thoughts that I have personally. I'm still learning about the legislature here in the St. Paul area as part of the MADC, but I'm trying to figure out how to get the right people to work with within the legislature to have conversations and sit down to talk about bills and future bills. Can you address that? Darlene, would you like to answer that?
Do you mean how to work with specific people? Can you expand on that a little bit?
Sure. Well, I mean, who do I contact? Legislators within at the Capitol. I know Minnesota is a big area, but in like the metro area. So I'd like to know who is the right person. And I'm sure you probably have a list of individuals, but that way I can reach out to community members and work with legislators in their specific areas within the community and getting together to talk about improving things and creating bills for the future.
This is a great question. And there are two things that come to mind for me. One of them is wondering who the legislature is for your district. You can check Minnesota Legislature and find their website. On their website, you can find who is your legislative representatives, depending on your address. And then another idea is that you can contact Alicia here, who can tell you more about what is being worked on. And she can help you with developing a list of who to work with and help to prepare you to propose specific items for legislature. We are going to be working on many issues related to deaf, deafblind, and hard of hearing communities. And please, I understand that you're learning, so please do contact Alicia. And we will also be talking this afternoon in one of the sessions of how to share your ideas, how to make proposals. And so that will be happening this afternoon if you would like to join us for that session.
Okay, thank you. And my second question, this is Alicia. Can I do you mind if I add to this? Jackie, if you haven't had the opportunity, I really encourage you to look at events, trainings within our community. The civic engagement led by Jesselyn Ackerman-Frank often she will provide lots of specific trainings on how to reach out to your legislator and how to lobby and so forth. So it's another great resource as well. And again, Jackie saying, I may have missed a few in the past. I've been so involved with MADC work that I haven't had a lot, but obviously I will go. And I do support all deaf, deafblind, and hard of hearing citizens throughout Minnesota, of course.
Okay, I do see that the legislative assistant, Joshua Solano, would like to help answer this question as well. Could we spotlight Joshua, please?
Hi, everyone, again. I did want to say this. I want to kind of piggyback off of Alicia as well. This, as you know, she is the government relations director for the commission here, but this goes for any position, anything you have for advocacy for any area, whether you want to advocate for climate change, whether it is, you're advocating for sexual assault or abuse or women's rights or anything like that. The way you can do that is you can actually reach out to those organizations. And the great thing about people like Alicia is that she is the subject matter expert on how to work with staff like myself. So if you reach out to those organizations, let's say you want to work with Ruth's House and work with, battered and abused women, you can contact them and say, who is your government relations director? And that is Kirsten Christofferson. And I'm good friends with her. And she'll send me an email and say, hey, I have this constituent, I have this individual, I would like to connect you with them. And that, I think, is a really good way to use government relations personnel, because that's their job, and it's very easy for them to be, many of them are friends with the staff members. I'm friends with many directors and lobbyists that advocate for these issues. So I think if you feel nervous about contacting your legislator yourself, that's a good resource to use them, because they have all the confidence in the world. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, this is Jackie. Thank you. I sure appreciate that information. And honestly, I do have a last comment. I was thinking about this. Maybe this coming summer, we will have everyone together to have a big discussion about how we can improve through different bills. We have a list of issues for the deaf, deafblind, and hard of hearing communities, and we'll get their input, and we're kind of like a think tank, and we can bring it before the board and get some kind of approval and then planning going forward. We're thinking about the summertime for that. It's a future thing for future bills, but thank you for your time, and thanks for the opportunity to let me be here and have this discussion.
Thank you. All right. Next, I would like to make a comment. It seems like there's a lot of tech complications and issues. I don't want to miss anyone, So for representatives, senators, House of Representatives, legislators, please type and let me know that you're here, so we can go ahead and bring you on and spotlight you. If you would type in the chat, because there's so many folks for me to try and see here.
And I do have, this is Alicia, I do have a list of questions here that I'm seeing.
All right. It seems that our next person on is Ellie, E-L-L-I-E. Well, maybe there's some tech issues with getting Ellie's camera on. Let's see if Ellie is able to get their camera on.
Maybe Katie Kelly, you could help her. She's requesting video. I do see that they're bringing. Oh, here we are. Can you see me okay? I bought this computer yesterday.
And Ellie, if you could go ahead and introduce yourself and describe.
And this is Alicia. Can you please describe your, hello, my name is Ellie. Kidder, K-I-D-D-E-R. And I have my camera on. Thank you for letting me have this opportunity to make mention. I do want to add what Rachel said and her experience of the legislature. I do want to comment on that. I'm just wondering, I'm encouraging people to make contact with your legislator. My concern is time. The time investment is really valuable. So that investment of your time is something I really want to bring up, because legislators oftentimes, when you reach out to them, they wear many, many different hats. They're worried about the homeless, those that don't have food, and access to education, and many, many other things. So they have all these issues on their plate, and trying to add another thing and then making it a priority is a little bit of a trick. And I know it can eat into their time, but the investment is so worth the relationship. So when I ask for something to vote on, like, I think like 8 or 12 years ago, there was an issue around deaf. And they said, oh, we don't know anybody who signs. And I said, no, you've got to meet the person. You got to meet them in person. So they want to get to know you. They see you signing, bring an interpreter. And then they can see, oh, they have to deal with an interpreter and what that means. And maybe they don't know. But they do appreciate when you make the time and say, hi, I'm concerned about this particular bill. And it's really good to get to the point on the issue. But if you start, like every other person does, on common ground concerns and issues related to you and the deaf community that you live in, and the fact that they make time for you to take that time, value it, and tell them how much you care about Minnesota, and tell them about your fears and insecurities. I'm sorry, did I miss them? Oh, like Alicia said. And Joshua said, and Darlene Zangara said, make a list of what they say and what they're saying now. I know it may seem overwhelming and hard and awkward, but it is at first for them too. But invest the time and keep in touch. And maybe you have a luncheon with them or you sit and chat with them. And I think it's important. Make your face known to them. Have them see you and be aware and become familiar with you by repeatedly being there for them, visiting them until they become more inclined to support you. That's the investment of time, and that's what I wanted to address. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Allie. This was a very powerful message that you shared, and we really appreciate that. All right, we are still waiting for Representative Liz Reyer. Seems that Liz is not able to join us yet. Maybe it's a very busy day at the Capitol, having to run and set things up for the floor. Well, they may try and connect with us. We do still have half an hour. So if there are any more questions or comments. I did receive a message that Representative Reyer and Senator Dibble will be showing up very soon. So if we'll have patience then. We're very excited to see them. Yep. All right. Are there any additional questions while we're waiting? Any comments? Liz? Oh, wonderful. Liz is here. Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome, Liz Reyer.
I'm pleased to be here.
Good to see you here.
Oh, I'm muted. Please give me 1 minute to get my other computer.
Sure, of course. Of course.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
I was on briefly when Representative Raleigh was speaking, and I'm sorry I had to leave and come back. But now I'm available for a few minutes. So where do we start?
Wonderful. Well, actually, we have several questions for you.
Okay.
The first question, if you wouldn't mind to introduce yourself and your role, and related to your role, what would you like for us to know? Perfect.
So I'm Liz Reyer. I represent House District 51B in Eagan. David Dively is my constituent, I'm honored to say. And I am working, and I've lived in Eagan for about 30 years. I have 4 kids. We are empty nesters now. And so it was a great time for me to take my professional career and turn to public service. I'm going to mute my other computer. I'm sorry, session is starting. And so I have to watch for my roll call. So I'll have to pause a little bit.
Sure.
I ran because I was really concerned about where things were going in our country. That I became a candidate during COVID. So it's been less than a year. And from the very beginning saw that we were going to have to deal with that, but have also been very attuned to the structural inequities in our society with structural racism, with disparities in both investment and outcomes and opportunities for people of different races, colors, the disability community, the LGBTQ community, and knowing that I was in a position at this point to help with that and to be involved. So I have been on the Housing Committee, Health and Human Services, Preventing Homelessness, and Capital Investment. And what I love about that is that we have a chance to do a deep dive into issues that affect people at the core of our experience, having a safe place to live, having access to healthcare, having the services and supportive resources needed, whatever our challenges are. I was the beneficiary of programs like this. In my 20s, I was in an abusive relationship, ended up in a shelter for families with domestic violence, and was benefited from housing and financial support and tuition support from the state and from Ramsey County. I know what it's like to have to overcome those huge structural challenges, and I'm so grateful that I was able to do that. And yet I see a government that too often blames the victim, blames the person who might not have the structural advantages that someone else did. And I just, it hurts my heart when this happens, and it infuriates me when this happens. And so, I'm pleased to be in this seat. I've been really lucky to work on some key pieces of legislation. And I say lucky because I didn't seek them out. They sought me. And there one was, might get my House file numbers mixed up, but House File 2010, which was about clarifying what reasonable accommodation and an interactive process means in the Minnesota Human Rights Act. And that piece has gone all the way through the House, through the committees. It's both on the General Register and in the Judiciary Omnibus going forward. And I'm very hopeful we'll get that through Conference Committee. The other wasn't quite as successful, and I'm not pleased about it. It was the disability, the task force that was done related to hiring and retaining people with disabilities. And that was really good work. It was a brand new, fresh report. We should have acted on those recommendations. I even said, I did all I could think of to nag the committee chair. I even sent cute pictures of my dog. It worked with the judiciary chair. It did not work with state government, but I'm still trying, and I'm still trying to have conversations about that, and we'll have that through soon enough. If it's next session, it's next session, but we won't be dropping the ball on that. I'll be right back.
Barracks in St. Paul, President Price.
I know the other question that you had was tips on what to do. And yes, and there's one that's really important to me, and I tell everyone I talk to, is contact your legislator. Contact them about legislators, contact them about things they're doing that you like, because we need that ammunition. Contact them about things you wish they were doing that no one has thought about. And contact them if they're standing up for a policy you disagree with. What happens with these, and maybe someone else has covered this, but what happens is when you're a constituent, those get captured in a database and those get paid careful attention to. So even if you get a form letter back, which happens in some of these, when we just get a ton of things back, a ton of emails, even if you get a form letter back, your opinion is being registered and your opinion has mattered. Send the form letter if there's a case, a campaign going, or send 2 sentences. I'm your constituent. Here's my address. I support this. I want you to support it too, or whatever the message will be. Short and simple is just fine. And we pay attention and we need that. I want to be, here's my other tip and here's my request. Hold us accountable. If we say we're going to do something, if we are not living up to our job, hold us accountable and, keep our proverbial feet to the fire. We need that. We depend on it. That's where good governance comes from. So those are the main things I would have to share.
Well, thank you so much for your fantastic and valuable information that you've shared. I know that you're a very busy person right now, so I don't want to take up too much of your time. But your feedback has been quite valuable. Is there anything else that you think that we should be aware of before we let you go?
Let me take a quick moment to see what name we're on. I'm R, so I want to see who's being the roll called. Because what I would love is for if there's a question or two, rather than me just telling you more. So let me just listen in quick.
Sure.
Okay, we're in the K's. So who has a question? What can I tell you?
Well, my question was actually, is there anything else important that you think that we need to be aware of before we let you go? In addition to what you've already said.
I'm just trying to think. Sharing information from the perspective of a community that has needs that most legislators may not understand or know. It's not fair to ask people to do the emotional labor of always educating people who don't understand. We see that, I think that cuts across communities. We see that a lot with the Black community being asked to educate the white community, for example. It's tiring and it shouldn't be up to any community with more unique needs or what I'm at a loss for words, but it shouldn't be your job. We should be doing the work, but provide information if you can. Keep inviting us and me in particular, because it's about me. I'm here to come and talk to you and to come and listen and come and be in your forums, in your events, because It's wonderful being out in the community, and we've been very isolated with COVID. So keep the door open. I caught Representative Raleigh saying, anytime, be in touch. I wrote a newspaper column for 12 years, and my phone number was out with the newspaper. So my cell phone is not a private thing. You know, share it, and feel free to reach out to me. It's important.
That is wonderful. And I did want to say that there's a little comment in relation to people with disabilities, what you were talking about. I think it is important that our audience is aware that deaf, deafblind, and hard of hearing people are included in disability community. Often we are not seen that way. And so I think it is important to watch and see what that direct impact is with us. Yep. I think you need to go, right?
No, I'll be back. I just need to say present. I'll do it I'll leave you unmuted so you can hear me do roll call.
Present.
It's neat. We can see it in action, huh?
Wow, Byron present. Wow, Byron present. Raleigh, St. Paul present. Rasmussen,
St. Paul present.
Rasmussen, St. Paul present.
Reyer, St. Paul present.
Reyer, St.
Okay. Ta-da.
Great. Very neat. Wonderful.
So
It's great to see you in action. And so you were saying that we were saying that it's within our community. We want to make sure that issues related to people with disabilities that we're also included there. Obviously, we do need to provide you with stories of how we are impacted. And are there ways that we can actually contact you through email or telephone? Is that what you were saying?
Yes, and for me, it's interesting because I wouldn't have known. To me, the people, the hearing and vision communities are also part of the disability context for me. You know, in terms of captioning and providing assistance, it's inherent in the bills I'm carrying. And so I didn't even know there was a gap there. So thank you for telling me that. I'm happy to give you my phone number. It's 651-398-4765. I would say that text is best because, and my email is rep.liz, L-I-Z, .Reyer, R-E-Y-E-R, @house.mn. So I'm pretty easy to reach. And I read all my emails. Sometimes they get responses that are more institutional because they just go to my research team. But if they're a personal email with a specific question, I read them and I say, here's how I feel about this. It's always my opinion, and I try to write as many of them as I can.
Wonderful. Well,
one other thing.
Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah,
I know your time is precious.
One other thing I'd say. And
we definitely look forward to working with you, and also our Government Relations Director, Alicia Lane-Outlaw. We'll be in touch with you, definitely. And we're looking forward to sharing some more information with you. And we're very grateful that you're in our community. I hope you have a wonderful day.
Thank you. I did have one more.
Oh, please. I'm sorry, please.
If you have ideas for legislation that would help, policies or programs that for policy changes, or programs that funding would be beneficial for, that we could be advocating for, let me know, because I would be happy to discuss your legislative agenda and help move that forward.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for your open door attitude. We really appreciate this, and we appreciate your working with us.
Thank you. Have a great day.
All right. Thank you. You as well.
Bye.
All right. It looks like we do have a question from the chat, from the audience. I believe that it's Barry Siegel. Do you have a question, Barry? Yes, hello. I do have a question for Liz. So darn that Liz is gone. And Darlene is saying, I'm sorry, I wasn't aware of that. Hopefully we can try and answer it for you.
Do you still have a question, Barry? Darlene is here, and she felt maybe she could answer. He said he would prefer to talk to Liz directly about that.
Certainly, certainly. Feel free. We're happy to share Liz's email and phone number with you. All right, bye-bye. Let me just check if there are other representatives who've shown up yet. All right, Alicia, did you want to join us?
Thank you.
It looks like Senator Daniels is not able to join us. Do we want to open for more questions?
I have questions from previously. I think it's from Lindsay Moon. Let me just find it here. So Lindsay Moon has asked, I'm sorry, go ahead. Lindsay Moon had just said, can someone please elaborate on who typically works well with deaf, deafblind, and hard of hearing community members? Maybe you could answer that, Darlene.
This is a great question, and I think that both Alicia and I could help to respond. Right now, with Alicia being on our staff, we are working very hard to build relationships with different representatives and senators. Some we do already have good working relationships, and we're going to continue to build on and strengthen those. There are many individuals in that category, but there are also some individuals who we haven't yet reached out to. And so I think that we will be working more to have more spotlighting on different areas and communicating to those individuals, let them know who we are and learn who they are, as well as what issues and topics we can identify that would be a good fit for these other senators and representatives. As you saw from this panel, they said, please contact us anytime, and that they want to know your stories. And so if you would like to increase the chance of success, please also reach out to Alicia, who can help you develop a strategy to convince your representative and senator. So now I'm going to turn it to Alicia so that she can also elaborate.
Thank you. Yes. And as Darlene said, really there are lots of different legislators that are there, but two important things: know who your legislator is. So, I mean, if you're not comfortable with, or they're not comfortable with the deaf or deafblind or hard of hearing community, it really benefits all for you to develop that relationship. So where you live, find that individual that's a legislator, that you're the constituent for that legislator, meaning that you vote for or against them, of course, so they're going to listen to you, right? Then the second thing would be, I'm sorry.
And just hold on 1 second. We lost the interpreter. All right.
I see. Okay. Thank you, Darlene, for bringing that to my attention. So this, where you live, of course, build that relationship with your legislators. And also, as Darlene did mention, it can depend on issues because there are different legislators that serve on various committees and address different issues. And the commission can actually help to make those connections on who would be the right legislator for that particular issue. And because they serve on a committee that makes valuable decisions on advancing that bill. So those would be the two things. Regarding our community engagement director, and again, Jessalyn Ackerman Frank is that person. And she often has great tips on where you can reach out and find out how do you find that committee or that issue. We do have a website that we've sent out to you. Plus, we also have events and a calendar of events and different trainings and that kind of thing. Please do reach out to Jessalyn and set up a one-on-one. Tell Jessalyn what you're looking for. Those are the two things for sure that I'm aware of that I can share.
Sounds good. Great. Are there any other questions?
More questions? I actually think I see Rachel up there. If we could spotlight her. Great. Hi. Again, I'm Rachel Eggert. And again, I just want to let everybody know about some facts about the legislature here because of my experience. The state Senate, it has a big number, 67 senators represented throughout the whole state, representing the state. And there's 124 representatives. And the difference in the number is because one district is equal to 2 representatives. So if you're looking for the address of your legislator, and you're not sure which, they divide the number of people within the representatives. So if a Senate district has 30,000 people, and they divide that 15,000 each, so there's an A and a B. So you can see that it's not just one representative. That would be too much for one. So they divide the work. And the senators usually have 2 senators for each state, U.S. senators for each state. And it would be too overwhelming for them to deal with everything that's going on at a state level. So they have districts again. And also, as Liz, I think, mentioned, HF, what does that mean? It actually means House file. And that's important before every bill that we recognize who it's tied to. So the bill may be House file number 1 regarding financing through Health and Human Services. And again, there's just lots. There's a ton of them, but HF means House file. And SF means Senate file. So if you're looking and trying to figure out where it is and what specific number you would have to go, you would know which committee is in. And so there's 4 in the House and 4 in the Senate, and they come together and they come to agreement with whatever is tied to that particular number. And then the bill is sent and it goes in both directions, whatever depends on where it is, whether it passes or fails. And the legislature is pretty darn complicated, but a law making its way through both houses is pretty complicated too. But just remember and go there. I worked there for 5 years, so it became very familiar, but it's been, I haven't been there for 5 years, excuse me, so I've forgotten a lot, but that's what I remember.
Thank you so much, Rachel. It seems we do have one more question from the audience, and then we will need to wrap up. Alicia, did you want to say something?
This is Alicia. Yes, I'm ready to wrap up.
I do see that there's a question from Barry Siegel. Thank you, Rachel. Yes, hello. And this is from Barry. I'm curious.
You mentioned
earlier that Scott Dibble would be on the panel. Will Scott be on this panel? Will Scott Dibble be on the panel, Darlene? And this is Darlene. That is a great question. We had planned, but it seemed that maybe something had come up and that Scott Dibble was not able to join us. Scott was on the list who was going to try to show up, but it seems it's a very busy day at the Capitol today, so maybe he was not able to, so darn it. And this is for Barry Siegel. Oh, I have been reaching out, been having a big problem trying to reach out to my legislators. I've sent emails, etc., but they haven't contacted me back. And so I feel as a deafblind individual that I'm not being responded to, but that they're spending more time with hearing people. And I have been involved in lobby day. And since the last lobby day, the past 2 years, I've been trying to reach out to them, but have not received any response. And then I was going to try to contact them directly today since they were joining, but I don't have access, and so I'm not exactly sure what to do. I do have their email address, etc., and I reach out to them, but I don't get any response. And this is Darlene. Alicia, did you want to respond? Alicia?
This is Alicia here. Yes, the legislature responds in different ways. And sometimes they're specific to one event, or some people prefer text over email. So what I would suggest you do is to contact me or Jesselyn, and maybe we can set up time where we can help come up with some creative ideas on how to reach them and get a response. And maybe make suggestions for some other ways that you can still connect, or other actions that you can take that might help your issue move forward. So that's all I could offer for now. But certainly we're here to work with the community and honestly to help figure out the best way to connect and collaborate with your legislator.
All right. Wow. Time flies, and we're now at the end of our session. It is time for us to wrap up. I do want to say a big thank you to everyone who has joined us. Also want to thank the legislators who joined us on our panel and shared such incredible and valuable information with us, and helping us to be able to do our duties so that our voice will be heard with them. It seems that we've gotten a common theme that's been shared that says, please reach out and contact us. And it's the same message from those of us on the commission to you all as well. Please reach out and contact us. In closing, I did want to say also, thank you. And I know that Alicia is also grateful for your attendance today. We are here to work with you, so please reach out to us anytime. And we hope you have a fabulous rest of your day.
Thank you. And thank you all for joining us.